Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Rentola. I'm the marketing and fundraising event coordinator at Pathways Hospice. And what I want to do today is give you a little bit of information about us as an agency and kind of the path we took to become more sustainable and environmentally friendly from the nonprofit point of view. And in order to do that, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. Pathways Hospice is an independent nonprofit serving both Larimer and Weld counties. Pathways Hospice was established in 1978, but we did not have our first building until 1995. And then we added a second building in 2005. So although we were founded much longer, it took us quite a while to get a building. And of course, when we got the building, at that point, we didn't have anything in our heads about green efforts or sustainability. We were just trying to get the building off the ground so that we could take care of the patients in our community. So what do we do? Well, Pathways Hospice provides compassionate end-of-life care for those navigating the final months of their life's journey. However, that being said, most people think about us as a nonprofit working simply with senior citizens when we actually work with all age demographics. In fact, right now we have 9 children from infancy up to 12 years of age in hospice care. So we provide that service to anyone in the community. We also provide grief and loss programs. We have a very extensive grief and loss program that's actually been nationally recognized, which provides grief and loss services to anyone in the community, whether or not their loved one has been a patient of Pathways Hospice or not. A part of that program is our children's bereavement and grief and loss program. We actually have the only dedicated grief and loss program in northern Colorado for children. We work with the school districts when there's the loss of a student. We also have a therapeutic writing camp with Hearts and Horses in Loveland. And we do all kinds of creative therapies, especially for our children and youth clients. And that includes everything from journaling to woodworking and painting and crafts so that they can really work through their grief in the way that works best for them. So we have been community-based for 34 years. We expanded into Weld County only recently in the last several years. And in doing so, because we were hearing over and over again that people needed that service and they did not have enough resources in that community to receive it. The efforts we already had in place were your pretty standard efforts when it comes to recycling. We had our recycle bins and people were putting things in there, but that was about it. There weren't a lot of efforts taking place inside of Pathways Hospice, and that was something that when I joined the team, we really wanted to champion and change. Now, we have some unique challenges in order to do that I wanted to share with you, and one of our most unique challenges I already mentioned, which is our buildings. The original building built in 1995 and the new building built in 2005. And when we took on building the new building, we didn't want to abandon the old one. You see that a lot nowadays. People kind of pick up and build something new and then something gets left behind. So they got a little bit creative and we actually connected the two with a hallway that is 2 stories, the bottom level and the top level. And that way we keep both buildings in operation. That being said, the older building that was built in 95 doesn't really have a lot of things in place at this point that are very sustainable and kind of reduce our energy costs and savings. So that's where our biggest focus is now. The newer building does. It has different things in place from lighting to our heating, our HVAC systems, which are much more compliant for our goals. Our staff is a challenge. Why? We have a big staff. We have about 145 full and part-time staff members, most of which are medical staff, most of which are female, and run the gamut. And the reason I share that with you is because when it comes to staff engagement and behavior change, when you have that diverse of a staff, you have to figure out how to reach them all. You have to figure out how to engage them all on what's going to be important to them, what's going to motivate them as staff members. Our operations are unique. Why? Because we don't operate Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We operate 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we have patients in our care. We have patients in their homes, we have patients in facilities around the communities, and we have a hospice care center for those that are most critically ill that we are expecting to pass away very soon. So we have staff coming and going all hours of the day and night, every day of the year. And our geography is a huge challenge. Why? Because as I said earlier, we not only support Larimer County, we support Weld County. So one of our biggest challenges when we had our ClimateWise assessment is the fact that transportation for us is a huge challenge because our staff is required and it is essential for them to drive around to patients' homes and visit them in their house. So that is a big challenge for us in trying to come up with short and long-term goals that are sustainable for our organization. So we did launch a lot of new initiatives that I wanted to take the time to share. And again, our standpoint is kind of really engaging and getting nonprofits excited and being a part of ClimateWise and being a part of these efforts, these environmental efforts to do better. So that's the first thing we did. We decided to join ClimateWise. We wanted to take those steps. We wanted to make that commitment, and we knew that was something we needed to do. So we did. We are currently a silver member in ClimateWise, but are certainly hoping to launch that up to gold soon. Green Minute education. So what that means is we have an all-staff meeting, and when we come together every month at all staff, the goal is to get everybody together. Certainly, we don't always get everyone there, but the goal is to do education for them. Now, not only education in terms of what's happening inside of Pathways Hospice, but also education that they can use outside of work in their everyday lives. We just had an all-staff meeting this morning, and I am the liaison responsible for doing our green education, which we call Green Minute, although I never keep it to a minute. And today's topic was eco-labeling. So I gave the staff handouts and talked to them about reading labels when they are out buying everything from food and health and beauty products to cleaning products, because just in North America, I read in a research article there are 218 eco-labels being used, and many of which do not have third-party verification, many of which are pure marketing done by the companies putting the products out. So it was my opportunity to take that education to our staff that they can take to their family and pass on forward to make better choices, again, not only when we're in the building, but when we are outside of the building. The staff liaison position is myself. That was created as a part of my position description, which to me was a very strong commitment coming down from management, that this is what they believed in we should be doing as a nonprofit, is having me as a liaison to the staff, as a green representative, to be a part of ClimateWise, to be a part of the environmental committee at the Fort Collins Chamber as well. More containers, more signage, that was kind of our slogan. We have about 22,000 square feet of space on 2 levels. So we have a lot of nooks and crannies where people love to put things. And one of our big focuses was getting more containers and more signage to educate our staff on what could be recycled, and when you recycle, where you're putting it. So that was an initiative of ours. EMR implementation, that stands for electronic medical records. You can imagine as a healthcare agency how much paper we use with medical records. We love paper. The staff just love to use paper, and in many cases legally had to. However, we've implemented an electronic medical records system so that we can go as paperless as possible with the thousands of pieces of paper that we have for all the patients in our care. In terms of the number of patients, we have on average about 150 a month that we are caring for, and well over 1,000 a year. Smarter purchasing was an initiative. What does that mean? For us, that meant coming together all the people that purchase products at the agency and making sure we're all on the same page so that bereavement is not purchasing here, and administration is not purchasing here, and the clinical staff's not purchasing here. It was our opportunity to come together and say, hey, how can we purchase smarter? How can we purchase more sustainable products? Where can we get them from? Can we buy in bulk and split that cost? So that's a part of that initiative in our agency. Employee engagement and excitement, I'm going to talk about on a separate slide. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Our operation and building improvements, again, I will touch base on here shortly, and how we are partnering with like-minded businesses in the community, not only for projects in the building, but also for event sponsorship. So our employee engagement, we wanted to be able to reach our diverse population, not only of staff, but we also have about 300 volunteers that donate time at our building and outside of our building. That's a big group to try and educate about our efforts. So our goal was to reach them here and here. And we also have an accounting staff, so we know how to reach them and what will motivate them as well. And so that's really what we needed to do. We wanted to encourage them that we were being good stewards of our community, and we were being good stewards of the environment. Those were motivating factors for some of our staff members. We have people willing to donate their hard-earned dollars to us as a nonprofit, and in return, we want to ensure that those people get the message that, hey, we are going to do good with those dollars, but we're also going to do good to the community and the environment. Those have become important objectives for us. Operate and reduce what we use. This hit some of our staff members, and yes, we're going to keep operating the way we have, but we're going to reduce how much we're using. We're going to reduce paper. We're going to reduce our energy. We're going to reduce our water. And those were motivating factors for some of our staff. Cost savings, that's where the accounting department comes in. They were really excited when we can show them the numbers that we're going to save. On all of our monthly bills, on all of our usage, especially in a building that operates almost 24 hours a day or has people in it. And lastly, public relations, and this is where the team that I work with I could hit. So we are able to use our efforts, our networking that we're doing in the community as positive public relations. It's our opportunity to take this message onto our social media outlets, our e-newsletter, any meetings that we host inside or outside the building. So for us, it's a positive way to garner public relations for Pathways Hospice. Management support was super important. We needed to have the buy-in of our senior leadership team. If they're not on board, there's a good chance that their teams that are working with them may not be on board. So that was a separate opportunity for me to go into that meeting and present to them on why I think Pathways Hospice should pursue this path, should do and make choices that are environmentally friendly and take care of our community. Sharing successes, in order to get staff buy-in, one of the things that we did was get some successes in place and then share them with the staff. So going into the process, it allowed me to get the research together and then go to an all-staff meeting and say, hey, guess what we've already done? And now, every month when I do the Green Minute, one of the things we decided to do was participate in the Aveda plastic lid recycling program, which some people are familiar with. For those that aren't, you recycle your plastic lids, you take them to a participating Aveda salon. They actually have a manufacturer that melts all those down and creates their bottle line for all of their shampoos and conditioners and styling products. So starting that just in March of this year, our staff has already recycled almost 64 pounds of lids, which lids are really light. So it takes quite a while to get up to that many pounds. But now every month when I share that with them, they clap. They are excited about the opportunity to make a difference and to keep that out of the landfill. So now they're bringing me lids from home and they're collecting the lids. Our pharmacy department, we have an in-house pharmacy at Pathways Hospice, they were recycling nothing. Not their lids, not the plastic medicine bottles, not the cardboard boxes. They didn't think they could because it was confidential and they were concerned about people finding out that, oh, they've got drugs in the building. But we actually contacted our hauler, who is Gallegos, and said, how can we put this in our single stream dumpster so that you can still collect it without it contaminating the load? And their answer was, for us, put them inside plain cardboard boxes, and that is okay. That won't contaminate anything, that still would be compliant. So now the pharmacy department has jumped all over that. That's their project. That's their way to be engaged and to make a difference in what they're doing. And lastly, an invitation of ideas. We have asked our staff to participate by sharing, either at all staffs or sending me emails or popping by my office and saying, hey, I think I have a really great idea and something we could do. I've never had so many staff members come up to me and say, in fact, I had one just this morning. Our brand new development director said, I try to live as green as possible. I'm so excited that we're doing this stuff. Those are things we never would have known if we hadn't launched this idea and engaged our staff to be a part of it. For operation improvements, our big thing was recycling. We had a ton of stuff that should have been recycled that wasn't being recycled. My example of the pharmacy is the one that pops out the most. We also have shredding containers at our agency because of confidential medical records. But what we were finding, especially when we had our ClimateWise assessment, was that staff was just using those as regular recycling bins because our shredding is picked up to be used for recycling. But what we found is that they weren't throwing in sensitive information, they were just throwing in everything. Well, not only did that cause more trips by the company to pick up and empty the containers, which is a higher cost, but we know that anything we can keep out of shredding is something that can be recycled longer. It's going to have a longer life in that system. And that was important for us to educate our staff on so that we could improve upon that. Purchasing education, I've touched base upon. Our biggest thing there was having the opportunity to talk to our staff about what you should purchase, what is a better material, let's stop using all the disposables, let's see what other options are out there and what local companies we can work with. As I mentioned, our electronic medical record implementation is a huge improvement. I mean, literally will save us hundreds of thousands of sheets of paper a year as an agency. Sustainable fundraising and marketing, that's kind of my specialty area that I get really excited about. My opportunity to tell people that you can raise dollars, but you can do it sustainably. You can do it by leaving a smaller trace in the community as well. And then lighting technology, those are kind of self-explanatory, making sure that as we switch over lighting, that we choose bulbs that are better and more energy efficient. For our technology, it's the idea that we are turning off computers at night. We are powering everything down as much as we can. And for outside users, it's the idea that we let a lot of other groups utilize our building and rent that space. And when they do so, we now have as part of their rental contract our expectations for products that they will use and bring into our building. And lastly, our partnerships and our sponsorships. This is our opportunity to identify the needs that we have as an agency and identify the partners that we could work with that would be like-minded and help us as a nonprofit, whether that's through networking, whether that's through ClimateWise, or whether that's through my research on the businesses that are located in our community and the businesses that could help us out. We also like to utilize trade. If you've ever worked with a nonprofit, this is pretty popular. It's our opportunity to do what I call a like for a like. What that means is how can we help you by promoting you through our channels and in return utilize your services for an in-kind sponsorship or some type of other support for what we're doing. Our examples of success really quickly are working with the following. With Gallego Sanitation, that's our partner for our zero waste fundraising event called Breakfast in the Park. Through working with them, we have received a 95 diversion percentage rate on that event. Signarama has been a great partner for us in switching over our signage materials. We use now the recyclable banner material for outdoor. We have bamboo stands. We use the biodegradable Coroplast. A lot of different ways for us to do marketing, but do it in a different way. EcoMaids actually comes in and they donate cleaning one patient's house every month. So that is their contribution, is to work with us and say, we want to make a difference. How can we do that? We give them the name of a family having a hard time keeping everything going in the household. They send a crew in and they clean that house top to bottom for that family. Hot Corner Concepts has been a partner of ours, supporting our fundraising events through their tip jar program, as well as supporting our events with auction donations. That's, again, a win-win. We can support them and what they're doing and vice versa. Breakfast in the Park, I already mentioned, is our green fundraising event right now. I'm working on the other two and getting them up to the same zero waste rating as that one. We have volunteer opportunities for ClimateWise members. All of the volunteers on our green team for Breakfast in the Park happen to be ClimateWise partners. We had EcoMaids, we had Mountain Wealth, we also had the Rio Restaurant, and they all volunteered their time to be a part of the event. And lastly, we want to be a resource for others. We want other nonprofits and other for-profits to ask us questions and ask us things that they might be able to do based on the things that we have been able to do. Moving forward, we're going to have short and long-term goals as an agency. We're going to continue our staff participation and our education as well as public relations. And again, our goal is to be an example for others. So if you have any questions for me or for any of us at the end of the event, I think we'll have time for Q&A. Thank you so much for listening, and I will hand this to Matt.
Thank you, Carrie. Next up is Lindsay Corcoran. She manages the marketing for Hot Corner Concepts, and she's going to be talking to us today about sort of the long view that organization is taking and what that means for environmental reduction of their own footprint.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank the City of Fort Collins for giving us this opportunity, and ClimateWise and Fort Collins Utilities to kind of talk a little bit about what we do as a company and our sustainability practices. Like you said, my name is Lindsay Corcoran, and I'm in charge of marketing. I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to talk to you guys today. I wanted to give you an opportunity to give a little overview of what we're going to be talking about, who we are, utilizing repurposed materials in restaurant design, employee challenges, which include our straw project, employee bingo, and bike to work day. Composting, which is one of my personal favorites, Big Al's, Austin's, and Enzio's, and environmental printing practices and environmental appliance use. Who is Hot Corner Concepts? In 1988, a couple gentlemen by the name of Steve Taylor and Scott McCarthy bought a restaurant called the Moot House. And that kind of started all. As their families started to expand, they decided they needed to expand their businesses as well to meet those needs. So in 1997, they established Austin's American Grill downtown on College and Mountain. In 2002, on the Harmony Corridor, when that started to expand, they opened up Austin's on Harmony. And in 2004, they opened up Enzio's Italian Kitchen in Old Town. In 2005, they opened up Austin's Homestead. And in 2010, Big Al's Burgers and Dogs. Hot Corner Concepts became a ClimateWise member in 2003. So Big Al's being our most recently opened restaurant, we decided that was a great opportunity to really use that sustainability from the foundation up in the restaurant design. In Big Al's, we used repurposed wood for the tabletops that were from the old Lincoln Center stage deconstruction. We used countertops from the Steele's Market that were from, that we actually repurposed into using our high top tables in there. We salvaged old air diffusers from the Steele's Market deconstruction, and we turned those into light fixtures in Big Al's. We also took old fencing and siding from homes and used those to line our light columns and to work as wainscoting up our walls. We also took old stair balusters and used those around countertops as well where the registers are. Some employee challenges that we used to keep our employees engaged and also continuing education for them as well was the straw challenge the straw challenge restaurant-wide, electric bingo, and bike to work. The straw challenge is currently in progress at our restaurants. Our goal is to decrease our straw usage by 25%. And how do we do this? It's actually pretty simple. We basically stop putting straws in waters automatically. The only time we would use a straw in water is at the guest's requests. And by doing so, we can decrease the number of straws by 25% that would end up in a landfill. Electric bingo at Big Al's. This is another project that's currently in use. We're doing this through ClimateWise as well. The goal on this is to reduce electricity usage by 2%. Once again, it's that employee engagement piece. We also find it's educational for our employees. It gets them talking about it. And in turn, when our employees start talking about it, they also talk about it to our guests. And we hope that by practicing these things daily at work, they'll start practicing those things daily in their home. Bike to Work Month, June 2012. All of our employees biked a total of 2,945.23 total miles. We had more than a 20% participation rate by our employees as well. This is a chart that we used. We hung this up in all of our restaurants. We use this chart to help track basically the miles biked by each employee, but also by having it up present in employee areas. They were able to motivate each other and talk about it and created that team kind of environment. Company composting, one of my personal favorites. We have 3 restaurants that are currently composting in unique and innovative ways. Big Al's, Enzio's, and Austin's. Big Al's, they're currently composting with A1 Organics, and Big Al's pretty much composts almost everything in that restaurant. And if you've been in there, you know, and like Kendra said in her composting panel, there is only one garbage for guests at Big Al's, and that's a compost garbage. We compost all post-consumer waste and pre-consumer waste. Big Al's will divert 70,000 pounds of waste from a landfill in 1 year. That's the equivalent of 6 elephants, kind of like your Ram talk. Austin's and Enzio's composting. We take a little bit of a different route with Austin's and Enzio's. Austin's will divert 600 pounds per month from a landfill of pre-consumer waste. That's 7,200 pounds annually. And Enzio's will divert 200 pounds per month. That's 2,400 pounds annually. So with Austin's and Enzio's and this is Austin's downtown. Pre-consumer food waste is picked up by bicycle by Rob Martin's bike service. And it's all pre-consumer waste that we compost at Austin's downtown and Enzio's. This pre-consumer food waste is then transported by bicycle to earth tubs through a project also with the city of Fort Collins. And it's dropped all this pre-consumer food waste. You can see Rob there putting it into the tubs. And it's put into those large earth tubs. What's happened with this compost, once it's cured and fully matured, it is then was this year used by the city of Fort Collins to be used in the flower gardens that you see all around Old Town Fort Collins. So some of the other things that we do with our ClimateWise program, and after ClimateWise came out and did an evaluation of our buildings, we looked at doing environmentally friendly replacements and printing practices. One of the things that were mentioned before is replacing light bulb with CFLs and T8s for our fluorescent light bulbs in restaurants. And these are projects that as things wore out or we had to replace, we then went and replaced them with environmentally friendly products. We put aerators on faucets and Energy Star rated appliances. And when they got this list, when I talked to the managers of the restaurant, some of the lists were pretty daunting, and there were little things that you could tackle on a daily basis, and then there were some big projects. So they found by spreading it out over time, it helped to distribute the cost as well and make them implement those plans pretty effectively. So in conclusion, we feel that taking small and constant steps in the right direction with all of our restaurants will have the greatest impact over time. By continually doing the next right thing, we set an example for our employees and guests and hope that they will continue to practice these in their home. So thank you so much for listening to us today.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Next up is our new poster child on our partner profile. His name's James Baum. He's with Professional Document Solutions. He's going to be sharing with us some of the steps that they took to really reduce the amount of transportation that they did in their organization. So, welcome, James.
I'd like to thank the Academy for this Oscar. It's always been a pleasure to work with. Hang on a second. This is the wrong speech. Hold on. Welcome to Map It. It is a travel and planning tool that is part of Salesforce, which Xerox took Salesforce and made a component of it called Mobile Pro that agents like myself use on a daily basis. So with Map It and Mobile Pro, what I'm able to do is plan my day, plan my traveling around my territory of northern Colorado. And what I do is able to save fuel, reduce emissions, and make it easier to get around stops. So what I have to do is I pick places in northern Colorado that I want to visit on a given day. And I try to pick out 7 or 8 places that I need to go to. And so I'm able to save mileage, like I said, promote sustainability, increase efficiency. So how does it all work? And what I'm going to do is kind of show you basically what I see. I'm able to use Mobile Pro from both the PC at my desk and as well as on my iPad if I'm out in the field. So if anybody travels, you know how important it is to be away from your desk on a given day. But yet, at the same time, when your phone rings and you have a customer that says, hey, we need help, can you show us how to do this or that, you have to be able to get from where you are to where they are as efficiently as possible. So by able to use it remotely or be able to use it remotely really helps save time. So again, I'm going to pick my stops, and a lot of times you'll see us riding around in our green vehicles. We'll do traveling in pairs. So I also work as training coordinator for both our agency in Fort Collins as well as our office in Denver. And as training coordinator, we'll sometimes do days in the field where there might be 2 or 3 of us. So by taking one vehicle instead of 2 or 3, that further cuts down on mileage and of course saves time. So what I do is I pick places that I want to see. So as being responsible for all of Larimer County offices, one of the stops that I go to is down at the ranch, the fairgrounds, the Budweiser Event Center. So I need to see them. So I click Map It, and all of a sudden their location is the little black dot at the bottom, and then all the other places at the top are customers, non-customers, potential customers in northern Colorado that I can see. So, all right, who do I need to see? Well, I pick out, again, in addition to that, 6 or 7, because they each have their own little pin on the map. I'm able to pick out who I want to see. And then once I click every one, I can add to directions. And then down at the bottom, I click Get Directions. And then once I do that, Google Maps takes over, and it will put every address to every location at once. So it saves me time having to look up addresses on Google, going back to this screen to that screen, click it all at one time, it pops up. So now what I do is I can drag and drop and plan my route, but right now I'm at 60.8 miles and approximately 2 hours and 18 minutes of travel time. That is a lot. In an 8-hour day, if I'm spending 20 or 30 minutes with a customer, 2 hours of travel time and on all that mileage is a lot. So what I need to do is say, okay, let me reduce these stops and plan a lot more efficiently. So if I can make a few key changes, and instead of driving, if I'm in downtown, if anyone's been in Old Town, you can pretty much park anywhere for 2 hours. So why drive when I can park at the corner of LaPorte and Mason and walk to those 5 stops? And then maybe get up my iPad and see, oh, there's 3 or 4 more places down here I can visit that I haven't been to in a couple of months. And then I could stop in and do that. By making those changes, I've gone from over 60 miles to under 39 and cut an hour off of my travel time by choosing to walk and be more efficient. Now that's 22.2 miles saved in one day. That's a reduction in net mileage. Now if I do that 5 days a week times 50 weeks, I just saved wear and tear on my car and our company's car by 5,000 miles at $3.70 a gallon. That's a lot of money saved on that. And with 6 field reps doing it 5 days a week, 600 miles a week, 50 weeks, we're saving at least 30,000 miles of travel time by being more efficient with Mobile Pro and Map-It. So that's 30,000 miles in addition to what we save by carpooling, what we save by walking when necessary, and just work together to save miles and reduce emissions. And it's a pretty big savings, and it's really nice to be able to use the iPad in the field. And they just came out with a update. I wish I could have connected my iPad to the screen and showed it to you guys, but it's a great time saver.
All right, folks, if there's questions, I'll open it up to you. Just raise your hand. I'll come around with a microphone.
So my question's for Hot Corner Concepts. I've always thought when I go to restaurants about all of the food containers, and that must just be such a huge load for your overall waste stream. Is that something that you guys account for, or not so much because it's kind of leaving your restaurant? Or have you thought about any creative solutions to dealing with that?
That's a great question. Thank you. We actually do, and we do track to-go container. You're referring to to-go containers? Absolutely, because they cost us money to bring into the restaurant too. So there's a cost there associated to us. There's an environmental impact. So there's 2 big key factors that we look at with those. We do like to try to, when they're available, that work, we like to get compostable to-go containers. All of our cups, our to-go cups, are compostable. So don't put hot water, any hot liquids in them, because they actually melt. They're made of corn. So yeah, we try and do compostable products whenever we can with our to-go containers.
One more time, thank all of our panelists here. Let's give them a big 5.